And that was their purpose, to give light and for signs. We're past that point now. I talk with my hands. I really do. The nations will walk by its light, and the king of the earth will bring their glory into it. In the daytime, for there will be no night there, its gates will never be closed. And they will bring the glory and honor of the nations into it. And nothing unclean, and no one who practices abomination and lying shall ever come into it, but only those whose names are written in the Lamb's Book of Life. So right here, we have a prerequisite. The prerequisite is, how did you get into the city? Your name has to be in the book. Are there bodyguards at the gates? I don't know. Doesn't say there is, and say there isn't. Although, it says there are angels at the gates at the beginning. I don't know. Maybe they're to keep people out. Gives me two hypotheses. Okay? The first one is this New Jerusalem bordered by the lake of fire. Or is there land beyond these borders? Now, if it's bordered by the lake of fire, so imagine the earth. We'll make the whole earth a lake of fire, except for 1,500 by 1,500 by 1,500, just bam, right there, sticking out of it. You have the New Jerusalem. And maybe that's why its foundation is so thick and stands up so tall. Because the whole of it is bordered by, on all four sides. Once you exit the city, you're in the lake of fire. No reason to ever leave it. If that's true, it totally negates any possibility of anybody ever leaving the lake of fire. The lake of fire, a time was given forever and ever in reference to Satan, the Antichrist, and the false prophet. That's the only three the forever and ever part was referenced. That's it. That's all we got. They are eternity. When it talks about sending the other people to the lake of fire, it does not use the words forever and ever. Is those whose name not in the book of life, is their punishment eternal? Or is just a big chunk of the earth like a fire, and then there's land on the outside, which at some point they'll be released, except for those three. Maybe the other sinners will be able to come out of the lake of hell, or the lake of fire. Maybe. I'm only suggesting it as a possibility. There's no scripture that says they will. But then again, the forever and ever is not used for them. It's only used for the three. So it's, But if there's no land, if the whole of this new earth, there's no sea, doesn't mean the whole thing in a lake of fire. There's no sea. A sea is made of water. A lake of fire is specifically fire and brimstone. It's not a sea. There's no water there. Well, I'm sure maybe fire or lava has some microscopic atom of, I don't know what's consistent of fire, hot stuff. So, if there is land, which I suspect there is land, because he goes through an awful lot of detail to tell us the whole earth is earth. There's no bodies of water anywhere. So, that means it's all land mass. And maybe the lake of fire is someplace else. But once we're in the city, why would we ever want to leave? It's big enough for all of us. So what's the rest of all that land mass for? Honestly, I'm really hoping it's for the exiles. Because, again, we have detail. Only those whose names in the book can enter. Does that mean those names that aren't in the book can still be outside the walls? But not in the lake of fire? I don't know. I don't have an actual answer for these questions. I can tell you what the Bible does say. I can't read God's mind. I don't know if Honestly, think about somebody you love. Say they go to hell. You witness to them, they refuse. They go to hell. Would you not like to at least have, it's a nice thought that maybe after 50,000 years they get to come out of there? 50,000 years versus eternity is like shooting someone and getting off scot-free. Okay? It doesn't matter how long it is, as long as it's not eternity. Honestly, if I have some loved ones who went to hell, some family members that I never met, whatever, I hope they can get out of there. And it says, we also know, at the white throne judgment, everyone will be judged according to your deeds. Are all deeds judged accordingly? It's a sentencing period. We know where they go. But is that it? Is it for a length of time? It doesn't say. Is it for eternity? For them, it doesn't say. It only says for those three. So either you lump everybody in with that one, and it's a doctrine thing. You can't teach hell's not eternal, or the lake of fire is not eternal as doctrine. It doesn't tell us. All you can do is suggest the possibility. Worst case scenario, it's eternal. Best case scenario, you have a sentence. It'll be for a time. That's not to confuse it with purgatory. I'm not talking about purgatory at all. Okay? There's nothing you can do to get out of there any sooner. There's nothing nobody else can do to get you out sooner. It's not what we're talking about here, okay? It's merely the possibility that these will be prison sentences. There will be terms. And maybe. And honestly, I like that thought even more because it fits the description of my God. Even if you didn't choose me, I won't torment you forever. You'll have to pay the price for refusal. And you'll never enter my kingdom, as my children did. But I'll let you out of there. And you can do whatever it is you immortals do when you can't come into the kingdom. Which I'm assuming would be worship God. But then again, who knows? The torment after a couple thousand years of just severe, intense, persecuted torment, coming out of there may not change nothing. You might be on par with the devil himself. I mean, I could argue for either side of this. I don't know. But I wanted you guys to have this information because, to me, it's important. Not so much as which one is it, but think about it. We can't have the answer now. We can't, no matter what we do. But you exercise your mind, start thinking about the possibilities. And then maybe God can take that and say, okay, once you start learning and figuring these things out, maybe I can show you some more things. Keeps your mind from being stagnant, which is where I try to always keep mind. And sometimes I fail miserably at it. And that concludes Revelation chapter 21. We're going on to 22. All right, verses 1 through 5. Then he showed me a river of water of life. Now, again, stipulate something here. A river of water of life is not a body of water. It's a river. It has to be at least a lake because it is a body of water. And bodies of water typically stand pretty much still. They don't got to go nowhere. Rivers, however, they go places. Okay. So we have the river of water of life, clear as crystal, almost like flowing glass. Or, I don't know. I can't even imagine what that looks like, honestly. Coming from the throne of God and of the Lamb in the middle of its street. Okay, so there is a throne, not a temple, but there's a throne God sits on, and I'm assuming Christ with him, and the Spirit amongst us. I'm not quite sure how that's going to work out. But you have, from the throne, the water of life in the middle of its street. So, maybe there's a street that leads up to the throne, Highway 1. Runs right smack dab down the middle of it. I don't know, maybe not. And from this throne, you have water, right in the middle of the street. Okay? On either side of the river was the tree of life, bearing 12 kinds of fruit, yielding its fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. So, you have a river, you have a street, and a river running through the middle of it. And the tree of life. Now, what do you think the tree of life would look like? A shrub? probably a pretty big tree. How big could it be? We have 1,500 square miles of kingdom. We can make a pretty big tree. You ever see Avatar? It might be that big. I don't know. But you have this tree in the middle and on each side, which means the base of the tree is wider than the river. You can access the tree from either side of the river. It's kind of a cool scenario. So imagine whatever you have in your head pictured as the kingdom. Then you have God and his throne and this, and it's probably not the size of that little chair over there. Okay? This throne is probably a good, 50 feet wide at least. God's probably a pretty big guy. Maybe it's a mile wide because he's that big. I don't know how big he's actually going to be. But from this comes this river. And this river is probably going to run right smack dab into the middle, down this street, and into this tree. And the water of life will feed the tree of life. Makes good sense to me. Where have we seen a tree of life before? Oh, there's one other place we did see the tree of life before, wasn't there? It's in the garden. Adam and Eve had two trees. One they could, one they couldn't. Knowledge of good and evil, bad tree. Tree of life means you leave that tree alone, you'll have access to this tree for eternity. You will have eternity, the two of you, with me. Boy. You can tell Adam and Eve were not selfish people. They couldn't have been. Because think about it. If no other humans existed, you and your wife were the only two in all existence, and you get to keep God all to yourself. A selfish person would do that. Me? I'd do it. Innately, I'm selfish. I'm a human. I can't wait for God to purge my flesh from me so I can never be selfish again. Don't get me wrong. There's time. I give plenty of things. I give away computers. I'll give away all kinds of things. But if it was like, just you and me forever, sign me up. I'm down. If someone else wants to come along, be my guest. But I don't care. All I care is about me and God. Nothing else matters. And honestly, I don't feel bad about it either. If you don't want to, if you can come too. If you don't want to, that's your bad. I'm not going to burn for potentially eternity, even for a minute. No burning for Lee. None. All right. So, can either of you tell me why this tree produces 12 different fruits? When does it get a new fruit? And when does it get the new fruit? Okay. What's that sound like to you? So, the month of January has apples. February, oranges. March, grapes. What's that sound like to you? All you know is a fruit changes. How do we keep track of time right now? How do you know when the seasons change? So what if those things never do change? What if you don't have leaves falling off and turning brown and falling off? And what else do you not have? Well, you don't have the sun, but more importantly, what's its counter? So if you don't have a moon, what do you not have? What's the one thing you're missing? If you have a moon, it's the opposite of when you have a sun. So you have light, you have darkness. So if you don't have light, you don't have darkness no more. Or if you only have light and there's no more darkness, you don't even know what 24 hours is. If you can't track 24 hours, how can you track a month? So what is this tree? Sure. It's a calendar. Is that important? I don't know. It's important enough for God to make it give you 12 different fruits. So again, and to put it in the Bible. So it has some significance. Now, for us, we are promised eternity with God. Does it matter for us? No. Now, this just came to me as we were talking about it. Whose purpose would that serve? We are